The speech was on digital preservation and legal rights, and it was about issues relating to the law as it pertains to copyright and what libraries and other cultural heritage institutions can and can't do with digital materials. And it was a summary of some of the policy work that we have done in the U.S. Looking into this matter and coming up with some recommendations about how the law could be adjusted so that digital preservation is easier to carry out by libraries, basically. And it was interesting because there were a couple of other speakers from Spain, and there were some similar issues. They weren't exactly the same as they are in the U.S., but they were rather similar in terms of the same issues that they have to deal with in Spain. Well, both countries have been working for a while now to make high-quality digital copies of analog original materials. And the Spanish National Library did some very early work in terms of making copies of materials that related to the U.S. And actually the U.S. Library of Congress and the Spanish National Library had an agreement a few years ago to actually scan some of these materials, such as data relating to Christopher Columbus's voyages to the U.S., some of his publications, and that material was scanned and put on the internet in both countries. So that was actually one of the earlier international projects that the Library of Congress was involved with. And I was at a meeting just before I came here at the Spanish National Library, and we were talking about their current digitization efforts, and we exchanged information about what the Library of Congress is doing in that area right now. Well, it was very interesting because so much content is now created in digital form that does not find its way into any kind of physical form or any kind of printed form. So, and a lot of this information tends to be valuable, databases, email, web pages, and so forth. So I found it very interesting to be able to figure out a way to keep that material, that very valuable, useful material, available and accessible, even though the technology may change. You may have information, for example, on an old floppy disk, and if you don't have the current technology to read that disk, that information is lost. So I've been very interested in trying to work on techniques and practices to be able to keep this information available. Well, there's a current project which is going on now in which Spain, the Spanish National Library, is doing a web harvest of all the Spanish internet domains, the .es, and they're working with the Library of Congress and with a private organization called the Internet Archive in the U.S. to be able to do this work. And this was something else that we discussed at the Spanish National Library at my meeting just recently, how that project is underway and some ideas about how the project could be conducted and carried out. So it was very interesting to have that conversation.